Witnessing a historic moment, hundreds of people packed an auditorium in Bogota, where President Gustavo Petro and members of the National Liberation Army announced a 6-month truce.
This act, which thousands of people are watching, opens a window of hope, and only societies with hope begin to change.
This is the longest truce ever between the Colombian government and the ELN, a rebel group that has been around since the 1960s. It seeks to boost ongoing peace talks and provide relief to areas affected by fighting.
It's time to stop thinking about the interests of particular groups and start to think about what benefits the country as a whole.
The agreement says that both sides must cease attacks on civilians. That means the ELN has to stop kidnapping people for ransom. They'll also have to stop issuing death threats against those who oppose their agenda. The news has been welcomed in rural areas that have been affected by violence. Nelson Leal is the mayor of Tibú, a small town near the border with Venezuela. He had to flee in March due to death threats from the rebel group. Now he carries out his job from Cúcuta, a city 4 hours away.
Those of us who live in rural areas and are victims of violence are hoping that the ceasefire works. This violence needs to stop, so there is more investment in our regions.
But not everyone is on board with the ceasefire. At this rally in Bogota, thousands protested against the government's security policies. They point out that in the past, rebel groups in Colombia have used ceasefires with the military to raise funds and buy more weapons, only to return to fighting.
Everyone wants peace, but you can't give a criminal group so many advantages when talks begin. The government is throwing away its leverage.
Analysts say that to build support for the peace process, both sides will have to ensure that the ceasefire works properly.
We need to see the ELN make some important and significant concessions that may be painful and difficult for them to achieve, such as renouncing the practices of kidnapping and extortion, which are very principal setbacks to the negotiation process.
As the peace talks advance, the ELN has suggested that it wants to change how Colombia's natural resources are exploited, and also make changes to the country's electoral system. So far, both sides have agreed to create committees where citizens can provide proposals on how to solve problems like poverty and crime. The rebels say they want to use those proposals to come up with a list of demands for the government. So, while the ceasefire might provide some relief in rural areas, it looks like the road to peace might be a lot longer. Manuel Rueda, TRT World, Bogota.